Good morning. It's Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. I hope you had a great worship service at your church. Pray that if you don't have a church, you would give West Point Baptist Church a look. We are a small church with a warm and big heart that loves one another and loves you. So I'm going to share this week the next couple of devotionals from Romans chapter 1, verses 8 through 14. Now, I originally preached the first point of this sermon on January the 4th, and then I preached the second point on January 11th, and I finished the series yesterday. So I want to go all the way back to the beginning. I want to frame these devotionals this week because I believe they'll be helpful in bringing clarity and purpose to your life. So, the question that I begin with and that I use throughout the series is this. We ask the wrong question about making impact in people's lives in our community. You see, we asked, how can we change the world? And that's a good question. I mean, that's a noble question. How can we change the world? A lot of times young people ask that question. If you happen to be a young adult listening or watching this, I'm going to give you a better question today. Now, if you're a senior adult, middle adult, barely adult, whatever, this devotional applies to you. So again, it's not wrong to ask, how can I change the world? It's just that question limits you. And I want to remind you that Paul wrote that in Ephesians chapter 3, verse 20, that God is able to do far more than you can imagine. So we need a question that takes us from the finiteness, that means this world, the limits of this world, and brings us into eternity in heaven. So the best question you should be asking yourself is not, how can I change the world, but how can I impact eternity? How can you impact eternity? You see the difference? You see the perspective? And the perspective is this. How can I change the world is limited because the world is passing away. The world is dying. There's an end date for the world. There is going to be a point when the world will no longer exist as we know it. But heaven and the Lord and His kingdom are eternal. And so we need to begin to say, what can I do to impact eternity? Or we could ask it this way, how can I invest in heaven? Now there's a multitude of answers, but what I want you to see this week in Romans chapter 1, verses 8 through 17, is what Paul did to impact eternity. And we know he's doing that, right? There are countless people who are in heaven today because of the life of the Apostle Paul. God has used the Apostle Paul in a mighty way. And granted, he does use us to change the world. But what we're saying is we want to impact eternity. Paul wrote about this in Colossians chapter 3, verse 2, when he said, set your mind on things above, not on the things of earth. In other words, he's telling us to keep our eyes on heaven. A horrible saying that I've heard, and I think it's said from a good heart, but we often hear people say, well, they're so heavenly minded, they're no earthly good. That's not true. That's not true. If you're heavenly minded, you'll do an earthly good. Those who have their heart set in heaven, set on Jesus, are going to change the world. But again, what we're wanting to do is change the world from an eternal perspective. So that's what I want to get with you this week. I want us to look at what it means to have purpose in our life, and we do that by changing our focus. So I hope you'll stay tuned as we unpack Romans chapter 1, verses 8 through 17 this week, and we'll dive in to the first habit tomorrow from Romans chapter 1, verse 8.